share their stories of their struggles and how they became mentally well and the tools that they use to become mentally well.
So I'd like to first introduce the moderator of the panel, a good friend of mine, and someone Sarah and I have had the pleasure to work on a number of projects with, an all-around great guy, Kulpreet Singh. Kulpreet is the founder of the South Asian Mental Health Alliance, or SAMA. He has a booth just over here for the day today. It's a non-profit community network with a mission to raise awareness, fight stigma, and build bridges and inspire positive action around mental health in the South Asian community. Welcome, Kulpreet.
Brody Craig is a Douglas College student with a diploma in youth justice. Brody works as a youth worker with Street Entrenched Youth, as a youth rec leader, and also as a one-to-one worker in a group home. He's incredibly active in his free time with many team sports and with coaching. Brody is very passionate about promoting mental health and youth wellness in his work and community. Thank you for being here, Brody.
Now, I can't see all of you, but how many in the crowd are 15 years old right today? Wow, quite a few. That's pretty awesome. So, our next presenter is 15 years herself, and as you can imagine, that takes a lot of courage to get in front of a crowd this large when you're 15 years old or in high school in general. Maddie Monteiro is a 15-year-old high school student attending school on Vancouver Island. Mental health is a topic she's very passionate about. She loves sharing her experiences in the hope of inspiring, influencing, and connecting with other young people. Please welcome Maddie.
And our third panelist is Karen Ajula. Karen is currently one of 5 Faces of Mental Illness 2013 for the Canadian Alliance on Mental Illness and Mental Health. She graduated from high school in June 2013 from Fleetwood Park and has been speaking about her experiences for almost a year now. She enjoys playing video games and hanging out with her dog. Thank you so much for all of our panel. Give a round of applause.
Hi everyone, how's it going? Doing well? This is like my own talk show. Hi everyone, how's it doing? How are you doing? I haven't done a talk show, so I'm a little bit nervous, but so I'm really happy to be here. I want to thank all of you guys for sticking around after lunch and for being so engaged in this event. Raising awareness about mental health is something that is really important, especially in the young generation. You guys are the next leaders, the next advocates, the next artists and politicians and media people, and your voice is going to change the future. So we have 3 really inspiring young people here who are coming out to share their voice and to share their story as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about what are the tools that they use to stay mentally well, and a little bit about their personal story. When you see young people sharing their story, it makes you feel like you can kind of relate, right? And if you can see it in yourself, or you can see it in a friend or a family member. So before we get into what kind of tools they've used or how they stay mentally well, I want to learn a little bit more about their personal background and their personal story. So I'll ask Brody first. Brody, you had some challenges with mental health throughout your teenage years, but when you got diagnosed, there was different challenges that came up for you. So you want to share a little bit about your story?
Yeah, I had a hard time throughout high school. I didn't really have family support, so I just attributed all my anxious and overwhelming feelings to what I was going through at the time. I thought it never could be something outside of that. I did the everyday things like go to school, play sports, I worked. I wasn't officially diagnosed with anything until I was admitted to the psych ward when I was 18. And
when you were admitted, you noticed that the professionals that were around you, they didn't understand completely that your mental illness was different from other personal issues that you were going through, right?
Yeah, being transgender, that's the first thing the doctors convinced me that was causing my mental health. They said that my feelings were because I was transitioning. they never really listened to me when I said it was helping my mental health. I was in the hospital for 6 weeks, and for the first 2, they kept trying to say that my feelings were because of my transition. When they looked past me being transgender, I was diagnosed with severe chronic depression and really high anxiety, and I started taking steps to get through that.
So as a young adult, like your transition, you know, getting more experience about how you feel about your own identity and how you feel about mental health, you know, as a young person, you're trying to shape your identity, you're trying to understand who you are. How was that for you?
It was hard because going through high school, you just want to fit in, you just want to belong, and then not knowing who you are inside and then having professionals tell you that you're feeling this way because of your transition or you're not who you are. You have to find yourself, and you have to listen to yourself and know that your feelings are valid, and don't let professionals tell you otherwise.
Awesome, thank you for sharing that. Karen, so when you were diagnosed, you was a little bit younger, you were in high school. How was that process, and how was your learning about mental illness and learning about yourself, how was that process?
Yeah, I was diagnosed when I was 16 with bipolar disorder, and I kind of found that when you're diagnosed with a mental illness, it's related to your behaviors, your actions, and things you say. And especially at 16, trying to figure out who I was, I kind of took the label of bipolar, and it turned into, hi, I'm bipolar, when I met people, rather than, hi, I'm Karen. And over time, it turned into, hi, I'm Karen and bipolar. And slowly it turned into, hi, I'm Karen, I have bipolar, to finally where I got to the point where it's, hi, I'm Karen. And it's no longer a label I drag around with me, and it doesn't define me, because it really is, at the end of the day, a health condition that I have dealt with and I continue to deal with every day successfully.
Awesome. So a lot of people here are in high school right now, and so being diagnosed while you're in high school, what is it, grade 11?
Yeah.
Grade 11. And so the last 2 years of high school, you have this new information about yourself and the challenges that you're going through. How was that? How was it going through grade 11 and 12? Not only dealing with the pressures of graduation and all of the studies, but also your own health.
It was difficult, as in I was very angry. I was confused, like, why me? And I kind of pitied myself for quite a long time dealing with that. But I had to realize that it really is anybody. It doesn't discriminate, doesn't care what color, what gender you are. It can affect anybody. And I realized in high school, I didn't really hear people talking about it. And that's when I realized, when I found my voice, the reason why I was going to speak up was to speak up for those who couldn't.
That's awesome. And Maddie, when you had your challenge, it was at a much younger age, right? You learned about, you had to cope with these things at a much younger age, right?
I've always been like a really anxious kid ever since I was really little, and I have more different and more diverse experiences with different mental health issues. I was abused by my dad from when I was very little until the time I was 12, like around 12. And I think that contributed a lot to my mental health in general, really. I've experienced different things like depression, eating disorders, self-harm, but I think what I'm still dealing with is more anxiety and OCD. And I feel like when people hear OCD, they think like overly cleanly or totally 100% organized. And I do like things clean, and I am very organized, but I'm not obsessed with that kind of thing. But, you know, if you're double dipping your chip in my dip, I won't be dipping my chip in that dip, you know? It was more of obsessive thoughts and how I had to do some things in twos and stuff like that. And anxiety I've really dealt with that in a way, like right now, I am really close to peeing myself up here. But yeah, like they're things I experience now, and they're things I've experienced then. But I only got a diagnosis when I was about 13, I think, I finally got diagnosed.
How many, by show of hands, how many people here are age 15 or younger? All right, so
I feel
probably
you
about
guys.
probably about a fourth or a fifth of the audience. So Maddie, like being so young and having to deal with these different things, did you notice things in school? And would you have any advice for young people who are in school, whether elementary or high school, how to deal with your peers and your friends and stigma that sometimes you have to face if you have a mental illness?
Well, elementary school was, I mean, it was okay. I always felt a little bit different than other kids. For one, I lived with my mom, and everyone else had like their mama and dada, and I had my mom. I'm very lucky though to have the mom that I did. And then high school is always hard. And I think high school is hard for everyone because you're trying to fit in, you're trying to find yourself, your peer group is splitting up, you're becoming like a new person. And when I was going through with my different mental health issues, it was really hard to kind of connect because this isn't something a lot of people really talk about. You don't go up and, hey, my name's Maddie, I have anxiety and OCD. That's not really a good conversation starter. I mean, it is now, so that's really good, but but high school, it was a challenge. I was hospitalized when I was in, I think, grade 8, and I think I missed about a month, couple weeks, something like that, of school, which was really hard because when you don't go to school, your grades drop, and that's kind of something you cannot help. And I got really anxious about my grades. I always want to get high grades. Come on, Maddie, get high grades. And then when my grades dropped, that made me more anxious. And instead of my kind of anxiety working for me, like, hey, let's go finish this project, it was like, I have to obsess with this project and it has to be perfect. But then it's hard to do that, make something perfect when perfect isn't something I can achieve within the amount of time, and really I can't achieve because with my OCD and anxiety, I also had dealt with perfectionism. And when you deal with that kind of thing with anxiety, nothing is ever really good enough. So high school it's doing better, I think, though. I think high school, it's interesting. It's an interesting place, and I think I've grown up a lot, and really, I don't know, I've changed, I think, for the better, I hope, you know.
Awesome, thank you guys for sharing that. So, just to get a clarification on, a lot of times we talk about mental wellness and mental health, and it's a really individual definition, right? Brody, for you, what does it mean to you to be mentally healthy, to be mentally well?
Well, I think mental health has such a negative association with it. People don't really think about it because it's invisible. To me, it's about balance. It's about taking the negatives and learning to embrace them as positives. It's even having the ability to look back on certain times and laugh. It's about knowing yourself, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Let yourself be happy, but also don't be ashamed or mad at yourself to cry or to feel those vulnerable feelings either.
And how would you define it, Karen? Being mentally healthy, being well?
Being mentally healthy and mentally well for me just means doing everyday things. So instead of sitting in my room as I would have 6 months ago and journaling over a new doctor's appointment, instead of being bipolar Karen, I'm now sitting in my room playing World of Warcraft, repping Alliance, a human priest, chilling with my guild, I'm gonna get ganked by a horde after this, I feel it coming. It's just doing everyday things and just being me and not being so dragged down by a label and normalizing things, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and Maddie, how about yourself? What does it mean to you when you feel like I'm mentally well, or what does mental wellness mean to you?
Well, I think the point I want to make, you can have a diagnosed or undiagnosed mental illness and be mentally healthy. Like, mental health is not the absence of a mental illness or multiple mental illnesses. And the same goes the other way. You can be totally mentally unhealthy and have no diagnosed or undiagnosed mental illness. So really, it's hard to say exactly what mental health means to me, but I think it's a lot like people are dealing with things, and I hope that they can come together, because that's one of the things I struggled with, was like, no one else is dealing with this stuff. I'm the only one who's dealing with this stuff. But now I can see I'm not, so that's pretty cool. Being mentally healthy is being able to go out and do things like you guys said. Go out and being able to experience the world and not have to miss out on things because you're not feeling yourself. And that's, I think, the main thing is to actually feel like yourself and be you.
So from my perspective, I wanted to share a little bit about my background as well. When I was younger, I also dealt with ADHD, and I also dealt with depression, and I noticed that what helped me was serving and meditating. Both of those things were really effective tools for me to get to feel well and to get healing for depression and from ADHD and to manage ADHD. So for you guys, in your challenges that you've gone through as young people, what are some of the tools that you've noticed that have really helped you to deal with the challenges that you faced?
I give sports the most credit for keeping me intact. No matter what was going on in my mind, as soon as I stepped on that ice rink or that rugby field, my mind would stop racing. Everything would go away for that while. I struggled a bit during the transition from female to male sports. Playing rugby and hockey, they aren't the easiest to fit into. Guys are naturally a lot bigger, a lot faster, and a lot stronger. While I was finding my place as a player, I picked up reffing and coaching as I learned that anything to do with sports really helped me cope. But I think it's important that you realize you will get through it. Mental health is never something you'll get over, but as long as it's not ignored, you will get through it.
Awesome. How about you, Karen?
For me, reflecting back on my thoughts a lot is important, so I write them down and kind of read through them again and see, okay, maybe I'm feeling this way because of that, but reflecting is really important. And also, one thing that always made me feel better was the ocean. I would like to go sit by it, and looking at the huge ocean, you would notice your problems aren't as big as they seem, which sounds so cliche, but also noticing the waves, how they never stopped. Even though something may feel like the end of the world, life still goes on, and there's always supports out there for you. So even when it feels things are as bad as they can get, life goes on and you can get through it.
So I'm wondering if you want to share a little bit of information about another thing that you started. A lot of you young people, when you see an issue and you're in high school and you want to take an initiative, you want to do something about it, you might start a club, you might start an association, or you might just get a few friends together to take action. Even coming here is a great step. And Karen, yourself, within your school, you started doing some advocacy and peer support around mental health. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I graduated last June, so in May, before graduation, I had my entire grade and a couple other grades join me in our school plaza, just like a big cafeteria. And I talked about my whole story, and I started from grade 10 of when I went to homeschooling and why I was out of school. I confronted some lies I may have told about why I wasn't in school, and I just opened up to my peers, and I was shocked and amazed by the support and just the general kindness and caring replies I got from people, and I think it was very impacting to them to see this is my peer, and I've known this girl since kindergarten, and to hear how she went through this and she's here now, I think it meant a lot to them, and it opened a lot of doors for other kids who are able to open up to their friends now and say, hey, I heard Karen talking about this, I've been feeling this way, and the counselor's office was definitely not empty the next day after that. It gave a lot of people motivation and courage to speak up.
Yeah, so it's really great to see like the Youth Ambassador Project and other projects being initiated within schools, and there's teachers and counselors here that can kind of pick up information and learn about that. Starting an initiative like that within a school is not very difficult. Getting a group of students together and doing outreach and doing support, that's one way, that's one tool that can really help youth in an environment that they feel vulnerable, that they need support in. And you guys have noticed that, peer support really helped in certain cases, right? Maddie, for yourself, Karen mentioned creative writing. That's something that really helps you as well, right?
Yeah, I do a lot of creative writing. I have binders filled of stories and poems. I think I mostly enjoy doing poems, like spoken word, but it's just something that I can take my feelings and these emotions and these thoughts, like I'm like, what? I don't understand them, and I can put them, like I can drill myself onto that page. I can pour my heart out onto that page, and I can understand it. I can finally, like, I understand myself even more every time I read some of my poems. I can just go and write and write and write, like all day. And it's something that I enjoy too. It's something that I have some confidence in, and yeah, so that's really good. And I'm also very fortunate to have the support kind of network thing that I had, like with doctors and different counselors and therapists, and like my mom and my friends and family. But I think besides having an amazing support kind of network, I had my writing, and it's something, Maddie's writing. It's always been Maddie's writing. And that's something that I enjoy, and that's something that actually helps me too. So I think that's really one of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite coping mechanisms, and one of my favorite things to do to pass the time, really.
Awesome. So as we wrap up, I'd like to hear from you guys. Any last message that you'd like to give to the audience? Like, what's something that they could take home from this event that you want them to really go home with?
Oh. I want you guys to know that, and you've probably realized this from standing here with I don't even know how many people. I'm luckily blinded by the lights, or I'd be freaking out. But you are not alone. That was one of the main things I struggled with, because I felt like there was no one like me. But if you look around, there are so many people, even the people I can't see because those lights are really bright. But there are so many people, and once we get this topic, once we start talking about it more and more, you'll realize that even the people you didn't think, or even people they're like, oh, I didn't even know that, like I didn't imagine that, have these things. And it's really, you need to know that you're not alone. You're never alone. No matter how alone you feel, there's always people there. There's always, all the time.
Thank you. Rudy, how about yourself?
Yeah, just ask for help, guys. And just because someone's smiling, or someone's a funny kid, or they're the jock, or they're the theater person, doesn't mean that they're not struggling. Mental health is invisible, and it doesn't get ignored by a smile.
Thank you.
And no matter what you're going through, mental health may seem like this big scary thing. If you come out and talk about it, people are going to run away from you. But you'd be surprised how many people you'll find have personal connections to it once you open up.
Okay, so we have a little bit of a treat. Maddie has agreed to share one of her poems. So we're gonna end off with one of her poems, and this is her expression. Everyone uses different tools, so this is her tool that she's used.
Okay.
How about some encouragement?
Okay, so I didn't know I was supposed to do this until this morning, so bear with me here. We all know those Monday mornings where we just don't want to get up. I'm too tired, man. I stayed up too late. Did you know the average person presses snooze more than 2 times each morning? That adds up to about 10 minutes laying in our beds because we don't want to face the world. Say we snooze for 15 minutes each morning. That adds up to around 105 minutes. 105 minutes because we didn't want to get up. We didn't want to face the world, go to school, go to work, go do nothing. It's easier to stay asleep where life is a dream and not a nightmare. Did you know every 8 minutes someone commits suicide? Every 8 minutes someone dies. While we are snoozing throughout our week, up to 5 people can die. There are 52 weeks in a year, right? How many people commit suicide in a year? Around 260. 260 alarms are blaring. No way. 260 people while I'm snoozing? Let me tell you, the numbers keep growing. As time passes, the alarms don't stop. 260 people die while you are pressing snooze. Depression is one of the leading causes of suicide, along with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, alcoholism, drug abuse, anxiety disorders, eating disorders, and other mental health illnesses. So don't tell me that these do not exist. Do not tell me that every 45 seconds someone commits suicide because they are stupid, because they're weak, because they're crazy, because they're going through a phase. Do not tell me that these people have perfect lives. They have no reason. Do not tell me that it is all in my head. Do not tell me that my best friend cut himself because he had nothing better to do. Do not tell me the reason he wants to die is all behind a phase. Really? Don't tell me that everyone feels down in the dumps. Sometimes everyone wants to end it all. Wanting to kill myself, it's normal. Don't worry, keep calm and carry on. Hold your chin up, keep smiling. Because sometimes smiling is really hard. So don't turn away from me now. Don't hide yourself under the safety of your blankets because you don't like the phrases I am throwing in your faces. Don't turn me off like your alarm clock because it's just another bad thing happening in this world that you can't do anything about. Why do you shut me off? What does it take for you to get out of your bed each morning? Why should I scream at your face for you to realize that the world is not going to change unless you get out of your bed and try? Because maybe you feel powerless. Maybe you feel like you're just one person. You're half right. You are just one person. But change, it starts with one. Please don't turn this message off. Don't make it into another sad commercial that you see on TV and immediately change the stations. Suicide happens, but sometimes one smile can save a life. Don't press snooze, because every day an alarm clock will keep beeping because there's no one there to turn it off.
Thank you guys, that was amazing. I really appreciate you coming here, having the courage to share your story and to inspire everyone else. And as you guys see, there's 3 voices here. These 3 voices have made impact on all of you, and now it's your responsibility to act like these are 3 candles and they're lighting a huge flame, and you guys can go out and create so much more light and knowledge in the world. So thank you guys so much, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kulpreet and the panel members. That was a lot of wisdom from young people, which is not that surprising once you start working with young people. You guys all know a lot of great ideas come from young people, and just that idea that you're not alone. At one point in my life, that would have meant the world to me just to know that I'm not alone. Going through psychosis and schizophrenia, you feel so isolated, and you are so isolated. But as soon as I started getting some help and support from others, things got better. And whether that's yourself going through a struggle or somebody you know, sometimes just reaching out and saying a couple words of support can make a world of difference for someone who might be struggling. So thank you guys for touching on those points.